Hello, hello. Welcome back, wonderful technologists. Hope you guys are having a great week. So, I, oh my gosh, I've been working so much. It is unbelievable that the amount of hours I'm putting in, it's unbelievable. Just working and doing, editing for these podcast episodes and just the courses that I'm building. It's a lot of freaking work. So, hope you guys are having an amazing start to your week. It is just super cold here. It is unbelievably cold. And like I said in my prior episode, I can't wait for summer to get here because I am so over the freaking cold. It's unbelievable. So, I know some of you have reached out because I recently did a poll not too long ago about what is it that you would like to see as far as courses and things like that. So, a major response out of most of you that follow me on Instagram is that CT exams and protocols was a big thing that most people struggle on. So I am in the process of getting a course together for just going through the different body parts and really doing courses around exams and protocols so you can have a better understanding on how to execute those. So that is one thing that I am working on. That's a little bit more intense. So I'll probably just do each body part and then just release it as I complete them. So stay tuned for that. Like I always say, if you always need help with the basics, basics in cardiac, I have a wonderful ebook. I have all those courses listed on my show notes. So check out the website and get your learn on. Okay. Get some, go gain some CT knowledge. So that's super helpful. So in today's episode, I wanted to share a personal story on how when I was learning CT and I just was struggling so bad, I almost quit. So that is the topic of today's episode. So, as most of you, if you've been listening to my podcast or following me on Instagram, you know I am a 20 plus veteran of CT. I've been in the CT space for a very long time. I have come across a lot of technologists over the years that are seasoned, suck the knowledge out of them, awesome instructors, some bad apples. Because, we always encounter bad apples, when it comes to, this type of modality. But I have just gained so much perspective and knowledge as I've gained experience and I've just, made myself a better technologist over the years. Now, I can tell you when I started, and I started doing CT back in 2003, I believe. So it was a very challenging thing. So at the time, the hospital I worked at was like a small community hospital. It's where I did my clinicals when I was in X-ray. They were looking for CT techs because they were so short. The demand of patients was increasing just by, not even doubled, like triple. And they really need to pump out techs and train them so they can put them on the different shifts that they had available, that they needed to fill, right? So they approached me and they said, "Hey, we think you're pretty good. Are you interested in doing CT?" And of course, my little brain, not even comprehending what the hell I was getting into, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So I remember day one where I go, "Holy shit, this is what this is all about." And I was so overwhelmed. It was not even funny as far as setting up the patient and IV sticks. Like I had no idea how to start an IV. I had no idea what IV contrast was all about. I had no idea what oral contrast was about. Like I didn't know jack crap about CT as a modality as a whole. Now, what I did get was with one of my supervisors, he's like, "Okay, well, go get this book, you'll probably learn." Well, the book that he has suggested was a registry review book. So that wasn't too smart. So I said, "Well, I have to take the registry because in order to work, like I have to take the registry because the hospital required us to be registered within like a 12-month period. So I said, okay, well, I'll just get the book. And then another coworker had suggested to get like a basic anatomy book or like one of those anatomy coloring books. So I got both. And still, even though basic anatomy from x-ray, I still had some books from that, but CT was a little bit different. So I actually had to get like a cross-sectional anatomy book so I can really just look at when I was scanning patients, like I can see what it is that I was looking at, which I still had no freaking clue. So I remember, I think I was, I want to say 6 months in, and it was super busy in the ER. We had this one ER doctor. It didn't matter if the patient had toe pain. I'm telling you, he scanned everybody from head to toe. Okay. And it was so frustrating because at that time we only had like one tech per shift. And then after 11, it would be on call. And sometimes you were there for 2 hours, and sometimes you were there for an entire 8 hours scanning everybody out of the emergency room. Well, I could tell you it was one of those days where we were scanning everybody out of that damn emergency room because this doctor was on. So the radiologists were not physically there. So it was kind of a system where we had to send images through like a dial up. If anybody knows who's old school, because this was, pre pre-internet stuff. Not, what its capabilities. So it was like the dawn ages of like when the internet was out there and you had to use dial up to send these images to the radiologist's computer. I'm telling you, it was one of the most just frustrating things because this was like pre-PACS days. We didn't have PACS at this hospital. It was a dinosaur. The scanner that I actually worked on too was a PQ6000. So any of you older techs out there, you should know what that is. So needless to say, I had done PE study after PE study after PE study on this single slice unit. And then finally, and the radiologist I had was a no bullshit radiologist. Like he would call you out on exams that were totally messed up, you screwed up, and he would just yell at everybody because he wanted quality exams. And he's like, you have to care about what you're doing. So I know I had totally missed this PE. The patient was a nightmare. The bolus wasn't even good. And so I just said, all right. So I had written a bunch of notes. I had told him, this wasn't it. And he's like, I'm just going to tell you, you obviously are not cut out for this. You need to just go back to x-ray. That's exactly his words. And I just sat there and I froze and like, oh my gosh, he actually said this to me. And I just left out of that reading room so stunned. And I couldn't believe my ears. And so my supervisor was like, what's wrong? And I go, well, he told me I need to go back to x-ray and that I'm not cut out for this and that I suck. And he's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. And he was trying to play damage control and trying to explain to the radiologist that, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get the hang of it. And the radiologist's response is that I've been 6 months in, I should know what I'm doing. Let me share a little tidbit for the radiologists out there that are going to listen to this podcast, because I know there's some of you that do. 6 months is not enough training for a new technologist to know everything that there is to know. And if you don't believe me, you need to go out on that floor and see what we actually do. Because when radiologists actually see what we do, I can't tell you how many radiologists their jaw has dropped on us fighting the combative patients, getting patients to hold still, holding the patients while we're scanning. Well, that practice doesn't really happen anymore, but it did back then. But just all the things that we have to encounter, getting hit, getting punched, getting bit, you name it. I can't tell you how many radiologists have come back and said, oh, well, this is easy. And then they see the dynamic that goes on in that room and they have nothing to say after that. So I remember getting in my car that day, leaving, and I knew I was going to be off for like the next 2 to 3 days. And I sat in my car and I cried. Like I was bawling, crying and saying, maybe I'm not cut out to do this. Maybe I should go back to x-ray. Maybe I should think about another modality. Like, what freaking audacity did I have to go into this modality thinking that, oh, yeah, I'll be successful? So I drove home and I kind of sat there and I started thinking, well, I have two options. Either I quit and he wins, or I go in then on my next shift and say, okay, I'm determined to learn this and really give it my all to basically give him, the satisfaction that I am a good tech and that I can do this so he can eat his words. So, which one do you think I went ahead and picked? Option B, right? Or else I wouldn't be talking to you on this podcast. So, yes. So I made a conscious promise to myself and I said, you know what? I'm just going to give it 110%. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to learn everything that there is to know. I'm going to try to go to every seminar, every educational class, CEs, whatever the case is. And I'm going to learn this shit because I'm going to slap it in his face and say, no, I am good. I can do this. And you know what? I am a successful tech. And that's exactly what I did. When I started applying myself and I really started to, hammer down and learning these exams and going to courses and doing this and doing that, because I had to do a lot of things that were self-taught and a lot of trial and error. Then he started to see, wow, because he made a comment. He's like, wow, that was an amazing study you did. I was like, oh, thank you. And he goes, no. He goes, I'm really impressed with your work. And you really have done like a complete 180. And I said, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I walked out. And I'll tell you, I think after that encounter and just when I had to protocol cases with him, there was a mutual level of respect between him and I because he knew that I took the time to apply myself and to really learn and to really get in the nitty gritty of how CT operates so that I can pass on my knowledge to other people, to other technologists. It was really just an eye opener and it was very enlightening. And I'll tell you, to this day, he is retired, this radiologist. I have the utmost respect for him because him just telling me what he did made me want to be that successful technologist, made me want to get that shit done so I could be like, haha, in your face. And really just say, no, I can do this and I can pass on knowledge as well, which is exactly what I'm doing. So that is one of the biggest frustrations that I had. And I almost quit. Can you just imagine if I would have quit? I'd be doing something totally different. Would I have been happy? I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. But I could tell you, I still love what I do, even though sometimes it is frustrating. And we all have those days that are frustrating. But if you know that you change somebody's life and you save somebody's life that day, it makes all the difference. So I hope this episode was super enlightening, super powerful for you. Like I said, head on over to Instagram, send me a DM, send me an email. Everything's on the show notes. You need some courses, go get your CT Learn on. Don't struggle. I am here to help. Okay. So hope you enjoyed this episode and I will chat with you next week.